It was his first time flying home, but as soon as he boarded the plane, he discovered that some mischievous kid had taken his seat. Just as he was about to lose his temper, a flight attendant approached. However, instead of removing the troublemaking child, she directly escorted Balthazar to first class. Meanwhile, Alice, an elite businesswoman, was being harassed by a balding man. She quickly pulled Balthazar over to sit beside her, and the bald man finally backed off. Throughout the flight, Alice kept her head buried in her work, while Balthazar playfully enjoyed himself on the adjustable seat, trying to get Alice's attention. This elite career woman never could have imagined that the boy before her would completely change her life. Suddenly, the plane hit severe turbulence and began shaking violently. All the passengers instantly panicked, including the flight attendants. As the turbulence worsened and the cabin plunged into darkness, Alice instinctively grabbed Balthazar's hand. Though Balthazar didn't pull away, he appeared extremely tense, so nervous he couldn't speak or even breathe properly. Alice noticed something was wrong and let go of his hand. Balthazar was visibly disappointed. Eventually, the plane landed safely at its destination. Watching Alice pack her belongings and prepare to leave, Balthazar finally asked for her name. After giving her name, Alice turned and left without a backward glance. Watching her departing figure, Balthazar's heart filled with disappointment once again. She was so accomplished and strong, while he was just an ordinary college student. Just then, he noticed Alice had dropped a USB drive on the floor. He immediately unbuckled his seatbelt and chased after her, but Alice had already gotten into her friend's car and driven away stylishly. The next day, Alice walked into her company with confident strides. Her presence commanded respect from everyone, who greeted her with admiring smiles, though behind her back they would mock her, calling her a cold old woman who didn't know how to have fun. Alice didn't care about the gossip. She focused solely on doing her job well and becoming the magazine's next editor-in-chief. What caught her completely off guard was that her boss gave the editor position to Joanna instead. Alice was shocked and confused by her boss's decision, knowing she was clearly the most qualified person for the role. But what her boss said next really shook her up. The boss explained that while Joanna might not match Alice's work capabilities, she had a cheerful personality and got along well with all her colleagues. Plus, she had an active mind that would help with the company's future development and innovation. Unlike Alice, who always seemed gloomy and lacked Joanna's energy and vitality. Faced with her boss's assessment, Alice didn't argue. She just quietly accepted the reality and decided to bury herself in work to numb the pain. But when Alice opened her computer to review materials, she was horrified to discover her USB drive was missing. In her moment of desperation, she noticed a note on her computer screen saying that a man had come to deliver something to her today, but she had been too busy at the time. Alice hurriedly dialed the number left on the note. Balthazar was currently partying with classmates at a bar. He excitedly told Alice the bar's address, and without hesitation, she rushed over. This was her first time in such a noisy place, but she had only one thought: get the USB drive back quickly so she could return to work overtime. However, the USB drive wasn't with Balthazar at the moment. Alice had no choice but to accompany him home to retrieve it. When Alice walked out of the bar, she was stunned. A beat-up pink electric scooter sat before her. She never imagined she'd be riding home with Balthazar on such a bizarre mode of transportation. But seeing Balthazar's earnest expression, she quietly accepted this arrangement. Seeing Alice fumble clumsily with the helmet, Balthazar quickly stepped forward to help. This moment was cleverly photographed by Alice's colleague. From the colleague's angle, the two clearly appeared to be kissing. This was explosive news material. Despite having only met once before, Alice seemed to have an inexplicable trust in this boy. She obediently followed Balthazar home. After successfully retrieving the USB drive, Alice didn't linger. She turned and left immediately. However, Balthazar clearly had more to say. He wanted to see Alice again, but Alice's rejection cut like a knife into the sensitive and fragile heart of the young man. Little did he know, she would soon be actively pursuing him. That day, Alice entered the company with her usual confident demeanor, but her colleagues were whispering among themselves, with strange looks in their eyes that left Alice completely bewildered. Then her friend handed her a photograph that absolutely stunned Alice. She immediately went to her boss, trying to explain that she wasn't involved in anything that would affect the company. But what her boss said next once again unsettled her. The boss said he liked the relationship between her and the boy, and he liked their rebellious spirit. Alice stood there in a daze, unable to calm down for a long time. Her ex-husband's infidelity had made her lose faith in love. After the divorce, she became a 38-year-old single mother. Her life now consisted only of her daughter and work, so she had never considered her romantic life. She sought advice from her friend, who urged her to start a new relationship quickly. This way, she could not only find a partner, but also give her daughter a complete family, and even achieve rapid promotion at work. Back home, she turned the stereo up to maximum volume, and tasted red wine that she hadn't touched in ages. She listened to beautiful music while opening her long-sealed wardrobe. In this moment, Alice's heart was brewing a crazy decision. She abandoned her usual strong businesswoman facade, and put on an incredibly charming outfit. She went to Balthazar's school on her own initiative. The moment she appeared, she instantly caused a stir among the group of adolescent boys. Balthazar never imagined Alice would come to school to find him on her own. He was filled with surprise and disbelief. Alice apologized for what happened that day and decided to give him a surprise. Such close contact made Balthazar nervous again. While Alice's beautiful face was permanently etched in his heart, they toured the school together, and when it was time to part, Alice suddenly invited Balthazar to dinner, which he accepted without hesitation. During their evening date, Balthazar discovered the restaurant entrance was using the latest projection technology. This instantly sparked his curiosity, and he couldn't help but get absorbed in it. This time, Alice chose to join him in his playfulness. All of this was witnessed by colleagues, who were very surprised by Alice's transformation. The two then went up to the rooftop together. A gentle breeze blew, and Balthazar unexpectedly shared many new design-related ideas. Alice couldn't help but flash a charming smile, her eyes sparkling with a hint of admiration. From then on, their contact became frequent. Alice also got used to that beat-up pink electric scooter. On a drizzly night, Alice suddenly received a call from her sister. To give Alice some privacy, Balthazar deliberately stepped away, but he still didn't forget to shield her from the wind and rain. However, Balthazar didn't know that on the other end of the phone, Alice's sister was arranging a blind date for her. Her sister told Alice this was a carefully selected blind date candidate. Not only was he successful in his career, but more importantly, he didn't mind that Alice had a daughter. She urgently pushed Alice to come back quickly. Having no choice, Alice could only lie to Balthazar, saying her daughter was sick, and she had to rush home immediately. Upon hearing this, Balthazar immediately rushed to the middle of the road and hailed a taxi. At this moment, Balthazar's expression was no longer that of a naive boy. He looked more like a responsible man. A satisfied smile appeared on Alice's face. Back home, Alice quickly got into the rhythm of the blind date. The man was witty and wealthy, indeed an ideal marriage partner. However, Alice's heart was constantly filled with images of Balthazar. Her expression seemed distracted and uncertain, destining this blind date to end in failure. But Alice didn't mind. Her relationship with Balthazar gradually heated up, and they went together to a fashion show venue. This place gathered many authority figures from the fashion industry. Alice repeatedly reminded him not to touch anything. However, when he witnessed a model fall with no one reaching out to help, his inner kindness prompted him to rush onto the stage without hesitation. The model left embarrassed without injury, leaving only Balthazar standing awkwardly on stage. Fortunately, the authority figures didn't blame Balthazar. Instead, they were deeply impressed by him. After the show, Balthazar took Alice home. The dark night intensified their emotions, perhaps because they hadn't had enough fun, or perhaps because they didn't want to part ways just yet. They decided to go to a dance and have a blast. Although neither of them had been drinking, their feelings were very subtle. The close dancing gradually made them both intoxicated. Then Balthazar took Alice home again. He mustered the courage to try to hold Alice's hand, but Alice panicked and dodged away because various uncertainties still lingered in her heart. The biggest issue was their 20-year age gap. Balthazar forced a smile and said goodnight, but watching Alice's departing figure, a wave of disappointment washed over his heart again. Wanting to try once more, he summoned the courage to ring the doorbell. Learning that her daughter wasn't home, Balthazar decisively kissed her. Alice didn't resist. Perhaps she had been anticipating this moment too, and so they finally confirmed their relationship. The next morning, Alice urged Balthazar to leave quickly, because her sister and daughter were about to return home. She didn't want them to see this scene. Balthazar hurriedly put on his clothes to say goodbye, but when he reached the door, Alice suddenly followed and gave him a sweet kiss. Balthazar was instantly intoxicated by this sweetness. But when Alice was preparing to leave for work, she discovered a sign hanging on the big tree with arrows drawn on the ground. Following the arrows step by step, she was surprised to find a recorder under a chair. She put on the headphones, and Balthazar's voice immediately came through, inviting Alice on a date. Alice excitedly got on his unique electric scooter. They rode together through the streets and alleys, both faces beaming with happy smiles. Alice once again felt the beauty of life, which also gave her more inspiration and creativity at work. Her tremendous transformation earned cheers from colleagues, who were certain she would become even more excellent. But life is often full of twists, and reality often brings dramatic changes. During one of their dates, Balthazar suddenly confessed his feelings to Alice. Seeing this, Alice's heart filled with joy, as she listened intently to Balthazar's every word. However, a sudden phone call from her daughter pulled them both back to reality. Alice said this was a mother's life. Balthazar immediately said he could accept it. Alice, unable to believe it, said again, "When I'm 40, you'll only be 21. When I'm 50, you'll only be 31. Don't think taking it as it comes will be a good idea." In that moment, Balthazar was rendered speechless. He had never thought about these realistic problems, and couldn't give Alice a definitive answer. Finally, Alice could only leave helplessly. Perhaps never seeing each other again would be the most ideal ending. Since separating from Alice, Balthazar completely fell into a state of despair. He stayed home every day without any contact with the outside world, as if he had lost his passion for life. Alice was no exception. Her work hit a bottleneck. That day, a major client came to the company to select photo styles, but couldn't find any satisfactory pictures. By chance, the major client noticed Balthazar on Alice's computer wallpaper. She immediately decided to have Alice bring Balthazar to shoot this advertisement. Although Alice tried to refuse, her boss directly agreed, even warning Alice in a threatening tone that if she couldn't bring the person to shoot, she would face unemployment. Alice was caught in a dilemma. She had no choice but to find Balthazar again and ask for his help. After their long separation and reunion, they couldn't recapture their past feelings. There was only mutual awkwardness and distance. Although Balthazar felt reluctant, he still agreed to this shoot. He hoped to use this opportunity to win Alice's heart back. Unexpectedly, while chatting with Alice's friend, he inadvertently learned a shocking secret. It turned out that everything Alice had done with him before was for her career advancement. Balthazar's heart instantly hit rock bottom, but to preserve Alice's last bit of dignity, he didn't directly question her. Instead, he kissed her hard in front of everyone. Perhaps it was to vent his inner dissatisfaction, or perhaps to publicly embarrass Alice. But during the subsequent shoot, the photographer's unreasonable behavior made him completely explode. He felt like he was being treated as a joke, and no longer wanted to endure such humiliation. He decided to abandon this collaboration. Seeing that something was wrong, Alice hurriedly followed him out. She pleaded with Balthazar to complete this shoot first. But even now, Alice was still thinking about her work. Balthazar couldn't hold back anymore. He revealed what he had learned from Alice's friend. While applauding, he sarcastically remarked that Alice's acting could win an Oscar for Best Actress. But when he turned around, he discovered that Alice's boss was watching coldly from the side. Balthazar was momentarily stunned. He looked like a child who had done something wrong, because at that moment, he was still instinctively thinking of Alice. Watching Balthazar finally leave in disappointment, Alice's heart surged with guilt and self-blame. Later, Alice still lost her job because of this incident, and lost herself as well. But only in such a low point could she listen to the voice in her heart. Watching others ride pink electric scooters, she couldn't find her own. The old sign still hung on the tree by the door, but now it had lost its arrow, lost its direction. Then Alice quietly took out the recorder. The moment she heard Balthazar's voice, she experienced an unprecedented sense of security. In that moment, she understood. She had fallen deeply in love with that boy who was 20 years younger than her. She no longer wanted to let reality's constraints suppress her feelings. So she decided to find Balthazar and pursue her love. She went to Balthazar's school, and burst into his classroom. Unexpectedly, Alice was mistaken for a substitute teacher, and was asked to teach the entire class. Under everyone's gaze, Alice was at a loss. However, when her eyes met Balthazar's, she decided to be brave once more for her own happiness. She apologized to Balthazar, in front of everyone in the classroom. She was no longer afraid of society's judgment, and bravely expressed her love to Balthazar. Watching Balthazar approach her, Alice resolutely kissed him. In that instant, she unhesitatingly cast aside the constraints of age and society, firmly embracing the person she deeply loved. Love is sometimes so unpredictable, allowing us to meet that most suitable person in the chaotic sea of humanity. As long as the love in our hearts still burns bright, we should firmly pursue our own happiness.